Hey guys, Matt Allen here. Welcome back to Tactical Bassin. Today we are talking about baits that don't break the bank. Baits that are worth their weight in gold even though they don't cost much money. What I did is I went through my tackle because you guys know we talk about stuff that's inexpensive. We talk about stuff that's borderline outrageous, right? $20 crankbaits, $30 crankbaits, multi-$100 swim baits. But we also talk about stuff that only costs pennies. So I went through my arsenal and I picked out, what do we have here? 7 items that are literally the least expensive baits that I own that still are consistent and catch a pile of fish. And we're gonna run through these. So if you guys, whether you're starting out or you're on a budget, or you just are sensitive to price and you want the best bang for the buck that you can get, these items right here are awesome. Let's start from the top. We're gonna start with the most expensive of the bunch here. And it's not very expensive. Coming in at under $5 is a Zorro buzzbait. You can see that these things have been trashed. I mean, absolutely trashed. These aren't just baits that were cheap, so I included them. These are baits that I throw all the time. What I like about this particular buzzbait, they come in at $4.79, by the way. But this buzzbait it's a light enough wire hook that I can throw it on regular tackle, but it's heavy enough that if I catch a giant, I'm not going to bend it out. It appears to be just a regular plain Jane buzzbait, but it's a head knocker. So I can get a really, really loud sound out of it, or I can bend it up and it's just a standard buzzbait. You want it back down, bend it back down, and you're back to a head knocker buzzbait. It does both, and it does it really, really well at an inexpensive price tag. White, black, chartreuse, basic colors. $4.79, it's a phenomenal choice. Number 2. Coming in right there, the Cotton Cordell Spot. I've talked about this lipless before. I actually got on Tackle Warehouse because some of this stuff I didn't even know what it cost. I knew that I liked them, but I wanted to check the price. Do you know that this is literally the least expensive lipless crankbait on Tackle Warehouse? The #1 least expensive bait, and is one of my favorite lipless. I throw some expensive lipless, but when it comes to just burning down the bank, burning shallow water over the top of grass, I don't know that there is a better lipless. Has that super unique sound at under $4. I mean, it's awesome. Such a good choice. Comes in a bunch of good colors. None of them are gonna change your life. They're not $30 paint jobs, but they're good colors, and this bait flat gets eaten. That's a major pick. Number 3, now you're spending a little bit more here. That guy right there, 4-inch or even the 5-inch double tail grub. It's a hula grub. Why are we talking about a hula grub? Well, I'll tell you, this is a Yamamoto bait. They come in, I don't even remember. I wrote it down. It is $7.49 a pack. But what that equates to is 75 cents a bait, okay? But I don't want you to think about this as a 75-cent grub. I want you to think about it as a jig. Most jigs are gonna cost you somewhere in the $3 to $6 range for the jig. Then you need a trailer. Hula grubs, double tail grubs, are an awesome version of a jig that's inexpensive. You can put them on a ball head, you can put them on a football head, you can put them on an arky head. Fish them in all different circumstances. Light wire hook, heavy wire hook. They're super adaptable, but it's 75 cents a piece. You're not going to get a less expensive jig. They're a great alternative, and when fishing gets tough, you almost can't beat them. Smallmouth, spotted bass, you almost can't beat them. They get a ton of bites. Next, now this is about to get pretty zoom heavy, because I'm gonna tell you, Zoom, bang for the buck, it's a pretty awesome brand, but we'll do one more right here. I never in my life would have thought that the day would come that we would do a storm swim bait in a Tactical Bassin video, just because it's an inexpensive product And generally, following inexpensive product is inexpensive quality. But this particular one, this bluegill, is awesome. I've fished it for years. Now, personally, I fish it during the spawn, primarily as a bed bait. That is when I use this bait. But if you're a pond guy, if you need an inexpensive alternative, by the way, whole pack, $6. So that's $2 a bait for a swim bait. For a legitimate little bluegill swim bait that gets it done. It's got a super hard thumping tail. Now, it's not an advanced bait, right? You're not gonna have a bunch of great sink rate options or amazing color choices. You've got a couple color choices, but this one flat catches fish. I mean, we just did a bunch of underwater footage with this bait, literally catching fish. It's a winner, and it's worked for me for years as an alternative to some of the bigger swim baits. When I'm sight fishing, when I want to irritate those bass on a bed, it's great. But if you're a pond guy, if you're just covering water, it's also good for that. You can't fish it super fast and you can't fish it super slow. It's that middle, medium retrieve, but it's got a good tail thump, a good kick, and it does catch fish. And it's got a solid hook in it. It works. I don't fish it with a belly treble. I take that off, throw that away. I just fish the jig hook. It's a small enough bait, you're not gonna have a problem. The fish are going to completely inhale it. But at $2 a bait, I mean, that's cheaper than Kitech, that's cheaper than everything. I mean, it's a really, really good choice. Next, Zoom Super Fluke. Super Flukes come in at 35 cents a bait. Soft jerk bait. Twitch them, you can fish them as a topwater. I mean, how many videos have we done with underwater footage where you guys see us fishing a fluke? Quite a few. This bait just flat gets them. This and a hard jerk bait are two of the most, what's the word I'm looking for? It gets a response out of a bass more than virtually any other bait that we throw. You can take a fish that's in a negative mood and literally force them to eat this because it plays on their core. It draws a reaction strike, whether they want to feed or not. When that bait's cutting and darting and hopping and it comes across their nose, bass are hardwired to react. So a hard jerkbait or a fluke is an amazing way to catch those fish that don't even want to feed. But when they're up and they're active, it's also an amazing topwater. I fish it on a 4/0 EWG style hook. You fish it super fast right on top. Just rip, 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 pause, rip, pause. That thing will be skipping, jumping up out of the water, and they just come kill it. Or you can slow fish it with a heavier hook, with an EWG Superline hook. You can slow fish it and let that thing fall, and it just kind of has a little bit of a shimmy to it. That thing drops down through the water column. Twitch it, drop down through the column. They can't resist. They just come up and gulp it. And then you guys know that we also use a screw lock and a nose hook for this bait. Super versatile, bunch of ways to rig it, and at 35 cents a piece, I mean, you can't beat that. You can afford to go through a pile of flukes to catch a bunch of bass, and they work great. They work in ponds, they work in reservoirs, they work on pressured fish. There's a bunch of things that you can do with them. Next, go into creature baits. Again, Zoom, baby brush hog. The brush hog too, but the brush hog is a fairly large bait. The baby brush hog is just a good all-around size. It's big enough to catch a good fish. It's small enough to catch a lot of fish. Again, you're there at 35 cents a bait. Now, a trick to a brush hog, and we talked about this in a video years and years and years ago, but here's a trick when you rig a brush hog, because you can put this on a shaky head, you can put it on a Texas rig, you can Carolina rig it. There's so many different ways to rig it. But when it comes to rigging this bait, here's a trick that you need to know. If you take a brush hog, there's a right and a wrong way to rig it. There's an upside and a downside. Check this out. If I take this bait, put my finger out and roll it over my finger like it's a stick on the bottom, I want you to watch these two appendages right here. Watch them close up. You see that? They're closed up. Now let's flip that bait over. Same deal. See how they open up? You get way more action one way than the other way. way more action. I mean, double the action out of that bait. You always want to check a brush hog. Check it, find the way that it opens up, and you rig it that side up. So we want the hook point coming out of the bait on the side that opens up. Just a quick tip. Some of you probably know that, a bunch of you probably don't know that. It literally is going to change the number of fish that you catch on a brush hog. Again, an inexpensive bait, you can fish it a bunch of ways, but it flat gets bit. Last but not least, another Zoom product. And I swear, I just went through my tackle, I picked out a bunch of my favorites, and then I got online and checked the prices, and I mean, they had it locked up. This guy right here, if you watched our 100 fish challenge video last year, this is what a pile of those fish got caught on. This is a Zoom swamp crawler. 16 cents a bait. 16 cents. Like, it doesn't get cheaper than that for a rubber worm in bass fishing. That's as low as you're going to get, and they flat get it done. I like to fish this bait on a shaky head. You could also drop shot it. You could fish it like a wacky worm. There's so many things you can do with it. Personally, I like it on a shaky head. Green pumpkin, June bug, black, watermelon, basic colors, but they work so well. The swamp crawler is a funny bait. A lot of people say, you know, oh, I was drop shotting, or oh, I was throwing a shaky head today. I don't know what it is about the swamp crawler. It has this following of anglers. Like, a guy will literally say, you say, how'd you catch him today? He'll literally say, oh, I was throwing the swamp crawler. I never say things like that, right? I say, oh, I was flipping. Oh, I was throwing a creature bait. I don't say like, oh, I was throwing the man bear pig. Whatever it is, when it comes to the swamp crawler, it has this dedicated following. Guys are like, I wasn't throwing a shaky head. I was throwing a shaky head with a swamp crawler, and it matters. Guys swear that this thing catches giants, and I'm not going to disagree with them. I've got a bunch of really nice fish on it. I don't know if I'm that hardcore about it, is what I'm saying. I'm not saying that this is like the greatest worm on planet Earth, but I'm saying that at 16 cents a piece, it is pretty amazing and catches a pile of fish. And there are people that would tell you that at $16 a bait, this would still be the greatest bait on Earth. So keep that in mind. It's a really good choice. They come like 25 to a pack. So you don't have to buy very many of them. You get a pack in a couple of your favorite colors and you're pretty much set. Again, my choice, my number one is always green pumpkin. I love that color. It works for everything, right? Whether you've got decent clarity, kind of murky, crystal clear, they all eat green pumpkin. It's a really, really good choice. So again, guys, I hope this video helps you. I know that sometimes we talk about stuff that's totally out of people's budget. You know what? One more thing. Because we're talking budget, I want to circle back around. I talked about this rod a couple months ago. The Colt series paired with a Canaan. We talked about these rods as a gear review, talking about budget alternatives. And I've spent a bunch of time fishing it this spring. Had some clients spend a bunch of time fishing them on my boat. Already had fish up into the 7 and 8 pound range on these rods. They've done a phenomenal job. Don't quote me on price. I think the rods are 79 bucks. And I think the Canaan is also 79 bucks, but I could be wrong. But if I am right, you're talking about, what is that, $160 combo that flat gets it done. The thing to keep in mind about the Colt rod is they're a little bit more moderate action, meaning that when you flex them, they bow lower into the rod than the same model in the higher lines. So compare, like, say, the 734, right? If you compared this to a Fury or to a Champion, as you go up the lines, as you spend more money, they become faster, crisper rods. The less expensive series, they're going to flex deeper into the blank. That's not always a bad thing, though. That can be a really, really good thing. So these rods, for me, have shined for topwater baits, fast-moving baits. So, you know, cranking, chatter baits, spinner baits, little swim baits, not super sensitive techniques. I am gonna want something that's got more sensitivity. I'm gonna budget more money, get a more sensitive rod for things where I really need to feel that bite. But for power fishing, at 79 bucks, I mean, I would argue that that rod is pretty hard to beat on the market. Since we're talking budget baits, might as well talk about a budget combo. I hope that helps you out, guys. Like I started to say, I know that sometimes we talk about gear that is outrageous for some people, but it's exactly what other guys are looking for. But we wanted to do a video dedicated specifically to you budget guys. You want to keep that price down, but you also want to catch fish, right? You don't want junk. This is not junk. Every one of these items slays. These are really good choices at any price point. So just want to take a minute, do a little bit different video. Just sit down here with you guys, talk baits. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Guys, when you do subscribe, or if you're already subscribed, be sure to turn on your notifications so that when videos come out Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you get a notification to remind you it's there. Otherwise, you may not even know that there's videos coming out and you are missing them. But again, we put out new content every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday religiously. We do not miss. Thank you guys. We appreciate you. Hit that like button. We'll talk to you soon.